Landing pages are uniquely designed pages with the sole purpose of converting visitors. Now, as a designer, you're more than capable of designing pages like these yourself. But to build them and make them live quickly, well, that either takes a web developer, who'll do them when he or she is free next, or using a paid subscription service. But the thing is, even as a non-coder, you can build landing pages like these in no time and roll them out again and again, even on multiple projects. No need for a developer, no need for a paid service. My name's Dave Foy, hop in and I'll show you. Landing pages are designed to convert visitors to leads or sales. They sell the benefits of an offer, which is often a lead magnet, which just means it's something for free in return for an email address. Now, they're typically a different design to the rest of the client's website theme. There's often no logo, no navigation, a different layout. The idea is to remove all distractions and focus 100% on getting the visitor to take one action. Now, you can hire a developer to build these, but there's often a way while that developer's free, and speed really is of the essence with landing pages. When your client wants to test an offer as quickly as possible. You can use a paid monthly subscription service like LeadPages, ClickFunnels or Instapage. These services, among other things, allow you to create landing pages without any code knowledge. Basically drag and drop for non-techies. But their core functionality is essentially building a nicely designed landing page, gathering leads, and sending them on to an email provider. As a designer, I can tell you it's an expense that's not required because you can easily build your own, and you can retain full design control. You can have the design exactly as you want it. So here are 3 landing page examples of mine, just to give you an example of what we're talking about. The first is the one that I'm going to show you how to build here. Now, it's a lead magnet, a freebie that I give away in return for an email address. This page took me about 10 minutes to build, and because with the method I'll show you, I can save it as a template. I can use it again and again on any website with a one-click import. You'll see here it's got a pop-up for the email address capture as well. The second landing page is for my webinar registrations, but that's a totally different kind of landing page. And the third is just an alternative lead magnet landing page that I created, again, in about 5 minutes. If you want my exact templates, these exact templates to import into your own project, hang on in here and I'll let you know how to get them in a while. If you want inspiration for designing these pages, loads of inspiration if you just search Google for landing page examples. So here are the tools that we'll be using. There's a link in the description under this video for each of them for you to check them out. The first is WordPress. You can use any WordPress theme you like. Now, I 100% use and recommend GeneratePress these days. There's a link in the description to an article that I wrote on why I think it's the very best theme for non-coder designers. But actually, for this purpose, any theme will do. You'll need the Elementor Page Builder plugin. It's free, and what you get for free is incredible anyway. In this tutorial, I'll use a couple of features of the paid pro version, but there are free alternatives to both of those features anyway. We'll use the free Pop-Up Maker plugin for the pop-ups, and we'll use Zapier, which is a brilliant third-party service that connects all this to any email service that you like. You can have Elementor send the sign-ups to any email address that you want, but you'll probably want to hook this up to a dedicated email marketing service. Now, in this video, I'll be showing you how to create a lead magnet type landing page, but later I'll also tell you how to get a bonus video tutorial from me, part 2 of this one if you like, showing you how to create another really popular email sign-up technique called content upgrades. I actually use the content upgrade method on every post I publish on my own site, and it works really well. So hang around and I'll show you that. Here's an overview of the process. First, we'll create the landing page using the Elementor Page Builder. Then we'll add the sign-up form. We then need to hook the form up to an email provider. And finally, I'll show you how to create the pop-up with the form inside it. So I've created a brand new page in WordPress, and I've just given it a fairly compelling title. This title will appear in things like search results and when people share the page on social media as well. So something quite compelling. I've actually saved this page as a draft already and then previewed it here. And by default, you see pretty much a mess. This is my site's header, it's my site's footer, which has got a special kind of effect on it, and the site title. I'm using the Generate Press theme here, so this is just the very, very standard defaults. We want to get rid of all that for a landing page. We want a blank canvas. In Generate Press, I can pretty easily just disable any elements that I want. I can get rid of the header, I can get rid of the footer, the title, etc., just by ticking these boxes. But it doesn't actually matter what theme you use. What we'll do is we'll just click on Edit with Elementor. You've got to have the Elementor plugin installed, of course. There's a new feature here. If you click on the menu up at the top and then go to Page Settings, and from here we can actually set a special Elementor template called Elementor Canvas. And if we choose Elementor Canvas, we now get a completely blank page. So we've got a completely blank starting point, which is great. What we want to do firstly is create the strip that goes across the top. So I'm going to add a new section, and it's just going to be a one column section. Sections in Elementor, a section is basically, especially if you've got the canvas template here, a section will expand across the entire width of the page, all the way left and right. So you'll see this effect here. If we click on the section here, and I go to Style and the background, and I'm just going to choose a background color that I've already got in my color palette there. So you can see that the section itself expands all the way across. So that's how you get the full width effect. And then we've got the column here. If we go to the sections layout settings, I've set the content width to be boxed. So these columns are going to remain at the content width that I set in my Elementor settings, the main settings panel. You could, if you wanted to, set that to full width, and then that will itself go all the way to the edges as well. But I want the column to be boxed. So the section is full width, but the column is boxed. The next thing I want to do is my logo image. I've decided I want a logo on this. This was the logo that I wanted. So just insert that media, and I want that to be aligned left. I'll have the full size image anyway. So underneath that, I would just like to add a bit of text. I'm actually just going to use the heading widget here. So just drag that into place, and my tagline, helping non-coder graphic designers build better websites. Now you'll see here that we can't see that because my default text color is black pretty much, and this is a black background. Now we could quite easily just go to Style on the heading and change the text color of the style, which is fine. You could do that, and that's no problem. But what I actually like to do is, if I've got something like this where all text in this strip will need to be white by default, we can override it. I actually prefer to set the setting on the section itself. So if you can, try to set styling as high up as you can. So rather than on each individual widget, just set it on the section instead. So we'll go to Style here. This is the typography, and we'll set that heading color to be white. Now by default, that's pretty big. I actually don't really want this as an H2. I just want it as a standard paragraph. So we'll just change that to a paragraph, and I'm just going to just alter a bit of typography on this as well. Let's have a guess, 14. I can use the arrow keys here to go up and down. So I'll leave it at that. Could tweak it, we could change the colors. You'll notice here that between the two widgets, between the header and between the image and the heading, we've got a gap here. It's actually 20 pixels. Elementor by default tries to be helpful and puts some sort of standard consistent spacing between your widgets. But at the moment, I actually would prefer these to be closer together a little bit. Now, there are various ways of handling this. For this one, I'm going to go to the Advanced tab on the logo image. I'm going to unlink the margin values here because I don't want to add the same margin to top, right, bottom, and left. So I'm going to unlink those. And what I'm going to do is put a negative margin, a minus figure on the margin. You can see that if I put a positive margin, that's going to push it away. But if I use a negative margin, that's going to sort of pull that up a little bit. So what I would suggest as well is that when you've done anything in Elementor, you quickly save it. And then I've actually got the preview of the page open in another tab, so I'm going to refresh that. And we've got that at the moment, which is okay. I think we could do with a little bit of padding top and bottom here. So I'm going to go to the section. And on the section's advanced settings, we've got padding. Now, again, I'll need to unlink these values because I don't want the top and bottom padding to be also added to the right and left as well. I want those to stay the same. So let's add maybe 30 top, 30 bottom. That might be all right. Let's give it a quick save. Now, you don't have to actually keep switching tabs like I'm doing. You've actually got this little panel here that allows you to quickly do a preview, because what you see in Elementor's edit screen sometimes isn't exactly what you'll see on the live page. There's a shortcut for that as well. It's Command and P on a Mac, and I expect that will be Control and P on a PC. That's just a little bit too much padding for me, so I'm going to just change that to there. Save again. Quick look again, that looks fine. The reason I ask you to save, or recommend that you save again and again and again after you've changed anything, is because in Elementor, if we click on the menu here again, we've got the revision history. So we can see all the way down here all the different versions of this page that we've had. All right, so we've got that bit so far, which is good. What I also suggest as well is that you get into the habit of checking what this looks like on mobile. So every time you add a new section, check it on mobile. It's really easy. Click on the responsive mode here. We're in desktop at the moment, but click on tablet view. You get the tablet view. For me, we've got an obvious problem here already. I think I'd like that centered on tablet, and I'd like that centered on mobile as well. So if we come back to the content tab on the heading here, you can see we've got alignment, left, center, right, and justified. At the moment, we're actually still on the mobile, so this mobile icon is highlighted. If we just go back to desktop a moment, that looks okay on desktop. If you click this, you now get these other two icons. So let's click on tablet. So now with tablet, I can now change that to center. So on tablet, that'll be center. Now, the way that Elementor works is that the style settings for the responsive settings, the style settings that you set higher up, i.e. like on bigger screens on desktop or on tablet, they also kind of cascade down to the smaller screens. So if I set center on tablet, if we go to mobile now, it'll be centered on mobile as well. So anything that you set on desktop will be on tablet and mobile. Anything that you set on tablet will also be on mobile. Right, let's do the next panel. So for this next panel, again, I want to add a new section. Now for this one, I know that I need 2 columns, so that's fine. Got a new section here. It's got 2 columns. And in my design, I had a background color on this as well. So I'm going to go to Style, Background, and I'll just make this something like a very kind of subtle gray, and save that as well. I think what I'll do now is already put some padding, because I know that I'll need it. So I'm going to unlink the padding on this section here. Let's have a bit more this time. So 30 at the top and 30 at the bottom. Now we need to drag some content in here. So I'm going to drag in my heading. And I'd like to change this to an H1 because it's the first heading on the page. And the beauty of Elementor is that you get some default text anyway. So if you haven't got round to putting in the real copy, then you've got something to work with. Come back here for the text editor and pop some text in there as well. And the final thing to do would be for me to just drop my image in there. So I'm going to drag that into this second column here. I'm going to find the image that I use, which is this one. And then the other thing to do, I suppose, at this point will be to actually put my copy into the heading. Now, to my eyes, that looks a little bit cramped. It could just do with a bit of leading. So we come back to style for the heading, pop the typography on there, and it's the line height setting here. So I'm going to use my arrow keys. I could type directly into the box if I wanted to, but I'm just going to add a bit there until that looks okay. Now, to my eyes, that looks fine. I'm going to click on the text block here as well. And then at that point, save the page again. And then use the preview to take a look at what that looks like. Now, that actually doesn't look too bad to me. And I think the only thing I would do here as well is maybe just bring... there's 2 things we could do. I was thinking we could either bring the image up a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that actually if you wanted to, just while we're here. Let's make that the full image there. Let's go to advanced, unlink all the margins, and I could add a negative top margin. Adding a negative top margin actually brings that up into place like that. So that's one thing that we could do. but I'll just get rid of that as well. The other thing we can do here as well is we can go to the section settings. So this applies to everything in this section. And this content position we can change to middle. So now everything kind of sits exactly in the middle. So this is in the middle, this is in the middle. And if we look at that, then that looks okay as well. That doesn't look too bad. Now you can see on the next bit that we've got a white section, but notice that we've got this block of text here, which is actually in one column, just goes across there. Underneath that, we've got 3 columns. And then actually underneath that, I've got another 1 column with the button centered. So we actually have one section with a white background. That white background section contains multiple rows of columns stacked on top of each other, and each row has a different number of columns. So let's come back to the edit screen. If you click Add New Section here, you will find that you're stuck with one row really, with just the number of columns that you choose, 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns. But what if you want the slightly more complex layout that we've just seen? Well, here's a pro tip. Don't click Add New Section. Instead, drag the columns widget into the area here. Now what you've done now is actually created a parent section, meaning the parent section is the one with the white coloured background. And that's the overall kind of containing section that's going to contain all the other rows of columns that we just saw. And within that, you've got a nested section which contains 2 columns by default. The columns widget just gives you 2 columns to start with. Well, let's firstly just add a white background to the enclosing parent section. And we'll pop a bit of top and bottom padding in there as well. Now, let's drag the columns widget into this parent section. That gives us another row of 2 columns. So we're going to use, now this is actually going to be our 3 column row, but we'll just set it up with 2 for now. And then let's do that one more time. Drag the columns widget, another row of 2 columns. So they're all within the parent section. Now, of course, we didn't want 3 rows each with 2 columns. So to get the correct number of columns for each row, we simply click the columns heading here and delete one of these columns. So now we've got a 1 column in the first row. Then click the columns heading for this row and this time add a column. So now we've got 3 columns in this row. And finally, just repeat what you did for the first row, just delete a column. Now we can add our content. For first, drag in the heading and then the text. I'm not too keen on the line lengths here, so I'm going to add a chunk of right padding to the text widget here. I only actually want that on desktop size screens though, so I'll click on tablet here to reset that padding to 0 on tablet. And as I explained earlier, mobile automatically gets tablet settings anyway, and you can override that on mobile if you wanted to something different. Now, drag in a heading. Now this heading was H2, and you could argue that these are subheadings of that H2, so these would be H3s. With the text here, I'm not keen on the gap under the heading here, so let's use our negative margin trick on the heading to pull whatever's under it up a bit closer. There are other ways of handling this, but this is the quickest for this video's purposes. Now we can just duplicate that column and duplicate it again, and then actually we'll just get rid of the other columns. We'll just delete those just so that we've got 3 columns there. Now I'm going to skip changing the text on this particular section because I think you get the idea now. So let's save that and then check the preview to see how it looks. I'm pretty happy with that. Now notice that we don't have the button here yet, nor in the header. I haven't forgotten. I'll just show you the button bit shortly. But for now, I'll leave this column empty here, just ready for it when we've got it. Now we need to create the sign-up form. I personally prefer the form in a pop-up. I think it's cleaner, and I think it converts better than having the form directly on the page as well. And in any case, all the cool kids have their forms in pop-ups these days, so we will as well. But we need to make the form first anyway, so let's put it on the page for now. When we've created it, we'll save it as a template so we can then embed it in the pop-up. I'm using the Elementor Forms widget, which is only available with Elementor Pro. You could use something like Contact Form 7 or Gravity Forms, anything that gives you a shortcode to place in the pop-up if you want to go with a pop-up method. So first, we drag the Forms widget into place. First name and email works best for me, but You may just want the email field only. Give the form a name. We're going to delete the message field. We don't need the message field on this form. Name, leave as a text field. We'll change the label and the placeholder to your first name. Required, we'll set to no. We don't want to block people who prefer not to give a name. I'll leave the column width for this field at 100%, just so it's as wide as the column that it's in. But you could set it to 50%. And if you set the email field to 50% too, then it just places them side by side. Email, leave as an email field. Change to so it says your email address. That's in the label and the placeholder. Required is yes for the email. Input size, I think medium looks good for this. Labels, we'll hide these. It looks neater. Elementor handles this really nicely actually. So while you can't see the labels on the page, they're actually still there in the code so that the form remains nicely accessible. Submit button, change the text to something compelling to click on, something that relates to the offer. Size, I'll set as medium too, just so it matches the fields. Alignment will set to justified to make it the full available width. Icon, I don't bother with this anymore, just because it can look a bit odd on small screens if you've got a lot of text on the button. Under emails and options, this is where you set where the form submission notification email goes to. Now you'll want to have these sent to your email marketing provider, which we'll come to, but for now, just set these to whatever you need. I'll explain how to connect this to an email marketing service soon. I actually like leaving the page URL in the metadata, just so that when you get the notification email, you know which page the form was sent from. It's handy if you've got your form on multiple pages on your site. Redirect to, this sets the URL of the thank you page that somebody sees after they sign up. You just go and create that thank you page on your site, grab the URL, and then paste that here. The webhook URL, actually this is where the magic happens in terms of connecting this form to your client's email marketing service. But as I say, we'll be back to that in a bit. Now hop to the style tab. I'll change the button color to something a bit more eye-catching and just tweak the typography a touch as well. After that, that's the basic page layout done. I missed out the final section of the landing page that I'm basing this on, just really to keep this video to a reasonable length. As I've mentioned, you'll need to hook this form up to your client's email provider like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign or Drip or maybe another service, just so that when someone fills in the form, the details are fired over to that service automatically. Now, what I highly recommend here is for you to pop over to Chris Moore's site, fire up your online business. He's got a great free tutorial video over there showing just how easy it is to hook Elementor's forms up to any email marketing service using Zapier. Okay, last bit. We just now need to make the pop-up happen. We're going to use the free Pop-Up Maker plugin for this. I've already installed the plugin. There's a link to it in the description, or in your WordPress admin panel, you can just go to Add Plugin and then search for it. First job, create the pop-up itself. That's in Pop-Up Maker and Add Pop-Up. The pop-up name is something just for your reference only. Enter the pop-up title here. This appears in the pop-up itself as the headline. Theme, I like Lightbox. There are lots of other styles to play with on the page here, but I'll let you have a play with those yourself. The pop-up intro text field, this is just where you briefly repeat the offer. At this point, let's publish the pop-up. We still have the form to add, of course, and to do that, we need to save the form as a template, then grab the shortcode for that template, and then place it into the pop-up itself. So let's go and do that now. To save the form, we hop back to the Elementor page that's got the form on it that we created earlier. So let's save the form as a template. And actually, it's a special kind of template. Because we're saving the form widget itself, we're actually saving a global widget that we can use anywhere. Hover over it, click the save icon, give it a name. It's worth mentioning here that global widgets are another feature of the Pro version of Elementor. In the free version, you can save entire sections as templates, but for this purpose here, that's not quite as clean. If you want to stick with the free version, you could create a template directly in in the WordPress admin panel, if you go to Elementor My Library, you can create a new template there. And that template could contain just one section, which contains one column, which contains the form. So that's another way of doing it. But if you've got the Pro version, I think the global widget is the best way to go. Now we go to Elementor and My Library. Now, if you have the Pro version, you'll see the shortcode for the widget that we just saved here. If you don't have Pro, there's a great free plugin called Anywhere Elementor that provides similar functionality. Now, back to your pop-up. Paste that shortcode into the pop-up content. By the way, make sure that you use the conditions panel here. You need to limit the code for the pop-up appearing on any page except the ones where you actually want to use the pop-up. Now, if you don't do this, if you don't limit which pages this appears on, then the code for this particular pop-up, it'll actually be there in the source code, the underlying code of every page on your site, which just adds a bit of unnecessary weight to the page. So I'm going to go to select a condition, selected pages, start typing the name of the page that I'm using this pop-up on, and select it. And then we need to update the pop-up again. So that's the pop-up with the form in it now. Now we need to make the actual pop-up happen on the page, on the landing page itself. So go back to all pop-ups. Now you need to just copy the first bit here from CSS classes to give you a choice of 2. And actually in the pop-up settings, you can add even more custom triggers to target whatever you want. But we don't need that here though. Almost there. Back to the landing page. You can delete the form now because we've saved it as a global widget. We've put it in the pop-up, so we don't need it here on the page anymore. Drag in a button widget, style it however you like. Then to make the pop-up appear when this button's clicked, all you have to do is go to the advanced settings for the button. Look for CSS classes. And all you do is paste in the CSS class that you copied from the old pop-ups page just now. Give it a test on the page, hold your breath, fingers and everything else crossed, and you should have a pop-up with a form. By the way, if you ever want to edit this form in future, now global widgets aren't actually editable in the Elementor My Library area, unlike other templates, but all you do is you just place it back on the page temporarily. Once you've edited it, just delete it from the page again. As I say, it's not a problem if you use a library template instead. And that's the landing page done. Massive pat on the back for that, well done. Don't forget to save these landing pages as templates down here, and you can just import them again and again into any project in future. As thanks for your time, I have 2 free bonuses for you. The first is the 3 Elementor landing page templates I showed you earlier for you to import into your own projects. I'll also send you a bonus video showing you how to make content upgrades. This is where the sign-up mechanism is directly within a blog post rather than on a separate landing page. These convert really well and are well worth testing with your clients. Just pop to designbuildweb.co/landing pages. There's a box on that page for you to tell me where to send the bonuses. And actually, that's an example of a content upgrade in action. If you like this video, I'd love it if you'd leave me a comment, like the video, and subscribe to my channel. My email subscribers get all my best stuff, so subscribe at designbuildweb.co. Thank you.